This video is powered by Dr. Cinik, one of the world's leading hair transplant centres and a top choice among football superstars. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link below for your free consultation. I'm even thinking about getting it done myself.
Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Today we're going to rank how every Arsenal player did this season via a tier list. YouTube loves a good old tier list. So we're here, me, Cecil and Turkish, to do it. We've got 5 categories for the players. We've got Player of the Year with a question mark. Are they a contender? And that's a good way to judge whether they were really in that, top tier of performers this season. Well, they had a good season, played their part, had a bit to play, did their thing. Disappointing. That doesn't necessarily mean they were bad, but didn't really get up to the levels that maybe we hoped. Maybe some were bad. And then we've got unmarkable in there, which could be given for many reasons. So, were you happy with the sections we got here?
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. I think the bad is included in disappointing, right?
Oh, for sure it is. Oh, yeah. It's just
James did it so freshly, disappointing, but it doesn't mean
he put the PR on disappointing.
I did.
See what he did?
I did. But I tell you why, because there's a player later that is going to make it disappointing for me.
Okay.
And I think you'll understand what I mean. But we'll go through it. Let's just start from goalkeepers all the way up the pitch. And we start with Hein, who I think it's fair to say is going to be our first unmarkable. Cool. So you'll get how this is going to work, people. There it is. Okay, Aaron Ramsdale. Interestingly, Turkish, what would you do?
Probably unmarkable, but he could be in disappointing because any chance he did have, he kind of fluffed his lines, and that was the 2 chances after that Brentford game. I mean, we got away with the win, but there was a moment where throwing the ball out, he done something crazy. Yeah, and wasn't there one at the beginning of the season?
This is the season. I should say this is all comps as well. I would have
played their part. Though.
That's where I was leaning.
Yeah.
Played their part in what though?
Because when he was called upon, yes, there was some moments, but
Fulham, he was part of a mistake that cost us. We look back at that game as well.
Right.
Brentford, Raya's, not cup tied, whatever, ineligible. He comes in. He that moment could have cost us. I think it was a Declan Rice goal line clearance that saved him.
David Raya had moments that the Tottenham.
No, he did, but we're not talking about Raya though. I know,
but he's had moments that I think.
What did Ramsdale play his part in?
When he's called upon, we won. Apart from the Fulham game, we won the games. I think he was fine in it.
Brentford, he didn't win us the game, but he nearly cost us points in that one. So
he could be one of any of these 3. Or you could say unmarkable because really, he didn't.
And then wait. So I've done Fulham. I've talked about Brentford. There was one this calendar year where he fucked up for something, then turns round at the fans because we scored Brentford at Emirates.
Yeah.
He fucked up for the Brentford goal.
So what are we saying?
What are you lot saying? I'm saying definitely disappointing.
I think as a season, he's had a disappointing
season. And then Havertz
season.
scored the winner, and then he turns around to the Brentford fans giving it. Don't you remember? And everyone was like, hold on, you nearly cost us points in this one as well.
Yeah, I remember. I just thought when he came in, they nearly cost us points, but he came in, he just played his part. He played his part. It didn't really end in... Apart from the Fulham one stands out to me, that's why I mentioned it, because that one stood out to me. But for me, he came in.
Do you know his dad as well?
No,
Lee Judges or
I'm not Lee. But I just think he played his part. But okay, if this,
do you know why? Oh, Turkish kind of.
It was Brentford at home because he came to me after. I do remember he came to in the box after, and he said, "No." He said, "Go easy on me on this one." But after that. I don't know.
Exactly. He said go easy. He knew he fucked up.
Yeah, he knew that. He knew he did. It was that one game. But I mean, there's people.
One game I've just given you 3. And how many games did he play this season? Like 6. That's 50% of games. And Carabao Cup he started. And what was that? We beat Brentford away.
Brentford, we won. Yeah, we
1-0.
Yeah.
He did have moments where. I don't know. There were moments where he showed his quality. The save at Brentford at home, Brentford away in the cup, he did okay. I thought in the FA Cup game against Liverpool, he was really good, even though we lost that 2-0. I thought he was genuinely good in that game. But let's put it this way: it's not necessarily that he was disappointing, which is part of it at times. It's been a disappointing season for Ramsdale. He went into it having signed a deal, expected to be number 1, and he's had a disappointing season. So I would go with that. Expected to be number 1, and he wasn't. I think that's
okay. So you got 2v1. If you put him in this spot, I still think he played his part.
But David Raya gets interesting because some will argue disappointing. Some will say he played their part. Some will say clean sheet, had a good season. Like, it kind of depends what part of the season. I'm leaning towards he had a good season ultimately. Like 16 clean sheets, like was good in terms of his distribution, cross collecting, but had moments. So I don't know.
It's a good season. First full season. Well, first season at Arsenal. I know he's on loan, but
I think
he
played
done
their
well.
part for me.
Oh, Turkish is it's going to be different. It's going to be the difference between these players.
Not we, but you, for example, Tactical Insight. Many statsmen out there. XG. If our XG is so low, he's not dealing with as many shots as a Ramsdale had to do the season before, and playing out the back, he's been an improvement. That's why I say played their part. But I think our defensive unit as a whole, our starting 11 as a whole,
help him.
Was
help
more.
him.
Yeah, I think he played his part.
Played their part for you?
I think good season. I mean, won the Golden Glove. I know what you're saying. They didn't face as many shots. I think that's due to the defence, but. He came in, and at a time where I questioned Mikel Arteta on that, I thought, what are you doing? We don't need to... There's not much difference between Ramsdale and him. I think he started to show that. High claims, his distribution...
Are you sold on him? Are you both?
Yeah, I'm not... I don't expect to go for another goalkeeper in the summer window.
I'm not looking for another keeper this
No, but are you lot certain, like, from what you've seen this season, are you certain for next 3 to 5 years you're happy?
I mean, for next... if we're looking
Not
just
just
in
next
the
year.
future...
I'm nearly there.
Okay.
Not fully, but I'm nearly
He hasn't... it's hard to say because he hasn't been massively tested when it comes to shot stopping. But then... So I can't really give you a definitive answer on the next 3 to 5 years.
You saw how I ranked Ramsdale and some of the reasons behind it. Reyes had a few behind him as well.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I'm trying to be fair here, and I think played his part because when I think of other players that I'm going to put in good season, I mean, we've only got one more above that for Player of the Year, so I've got to put in played their part. It'll make sense for me or for the viewers later on when I put other players in other positions.
It's weird. We just did the Player of the Season video, Robbie, and Robbie said he could be contender for Player of the Year. So underneath that, to me, and I wouldn't have said he's Player of the Year. I'd have said
moving mad.
I think because some of the overwhelming numbers that he needs to be responsible for, like the clean sheets, like the goals conceded, are so in his favour. I give it good season. Yeah. Are you still happy with that? Okay, all right. So good season.
Golden Glove winner. I know he didn't do much with that.
That's really a numbers one, and yeah, that might become a thing for a few other players later. Okay, Saliba.
Player of the Year candidate, man. 100%.
We all agree on that one.
Man of the match at Anfield, at Old Trafford, at Etihad. Like,
he's on my
I don't
top.
even need to speak
on
anymore.
my top for a reason. I think Saliba's been amazing, and at such a young age, bro. He's 23 years old. I said this in the last video. I can't believe how young he is. His ceiling is ridiculous, and he just seems like he's in gear 2 for majority of the season. Amazing defending. It's people he had to defend against this season and kept them quiet. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Player of the Year.
I agree with that. I think
Contender.
he is one of the best centre backs in the world.
Yeah,
honestly do. I listened to Cam on FCM podcast saying after we beat them at Old Trafford, was saying like, what team doesn't need a Saliba? And it's
100%.
like so true. Like there are other tall, strong ball playing centre backs, but to be as complete in so many things, so composed at his age, he plays like he's experienced, and like he really isn't really.
Yeah.
I think he's brilliant.
I don't know what attacker troubled him. Nicholas Jackson with his pace, but I don't know one that really gave him a headache. I think there might be one other, but I can't remember.
Champions League, he was a bit, funny. I wouldn't say he was, bad.
Yeah.
He looked a bit shaky, but yeah, he's been solid throughout.
His composure is incredible.
What about Ben White?
Ben White next. I'm going to say Player of the Year candidate. Under the radar, when you think about the roles he had to do this season, he'd done pretty much every fullback role you could ask of: invert, overlap, stay back, come into a back three. He's done it all, and he's done it all to a very high standard, minimum base of a 7 out of 10 performance throughout the season. Even the first half of the season, where we said he doesn't quite, but we said that for maybe 95% of the team, there was some changes going on, and still he's part of this defensive unit. He's a key part of the defensive unit. What did he get? 8 goal contributions as well. 4 goals, 5 goals, 3 assists, or something. 4 goals, 4, something like that. I think he's one of our best players.
He was shaky at the beginning. You said 95% of players, were that. Saliba wasn't. So is it fair to still keep him in that same bracket of Player of the Year? I'm asking a question because I think
it's a fair point to say that we were all saying he doesn't look anywhere near his best. Yeah. And some people were mentioning injuries, and people saying no, that's just an excuse. Like, for August to December, there was that question.
100%.
But then his second half, and I think I'm jumping ahead here, but I think Ødegaard also, like, a lot of people are looking at what he did in 2024, maybe those first 4 months where he wasn't quite at his best, but was getting into it. It's difficult.
But Ben White wasn't below a 6 out of 10 in the first half of the season.
Right here.
I don't know.
And when you
People
look at what we've changed to, yeah, I now definitely more understand the first half of this season.
Yeah.
And it limits the fullbacks, it limits the working the ball into space quickly, and these are things that Ben White thrived off with Saka in front of him last
Yeah, I
season.
hear it.
So the whole approach to kind of control games more, not be quick off the blocks, has an impact on our fullbacks. And Ben White, yes, he wasn't his attacking self. Yes, we said about overlapping Saka, it was instruction, but he was still not below a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10.
Here's where it is for me. I would also put him in Player of the Year because he's getting into people's Team of the Year. Like, people considering the whole Premier League. I think Gary Neville or Carragher, one of them had Ben White in their Team of the Year, and it's like you've had a special, even if it is just a second half. He's been phenomenal second half of the season and in the running when it matters most. So yeah, I would put him in that conversation.
It's just. I agree. By the way, he was in when it came to the Player of the Season video we did. Again, I mentioned it. Ben White was in there as well as one of the contenders. But the only reason why I'm questioning it is because depends how big we're going to make this Player of the Year section, which we're going to have to go through.
We can always edit it.
True.
We can always move players around.
Yeah.
Okay, well that'll be a question because I think consistency for me is a big thing for who gets the top spot, that top row.
Fair enough.
So yeah, we'll put him in there for now.
All right. So Ben White, we're going to put there alongside William Saliba. Okay, Gabriel.
I'll be intrigued to hear what you guys say about
For me,
this one.
absolutely Player of the Year
Same.
I think he's been unbelievable and has been throughout.
He was dropped at the start of the season. Still don't know why. Obviously, there's links to Saudi and whatnot. I still don't know what the full reason is.
Well,
but
there was anticipation of a bid coming in,
right,
and that's why he wasn't playing.
But when he came straight back into the team, I think there's an argument to say he could be ahead of Saliba for this season. So I think I spoke to a few fans about it and they said, yeah, like he's had to be the aggressor a lot of the time. Obviously scored more goals than Saliba this season. I think he doesn't ever get the flowers because of how good Saliba is. But for me, he's definitely a Player of the Year. I've loved Gabriel Magalhaes this season. I think he's been superb and you know, the back in the day people spoke about the Bozo gene. I think he had a very professional season this season and was fully solid.
Cool. What do you think, Turkish?
Where do you go, Turkish?
Do you make Player of the Year for you?
This is where the when you asked about the list, yeah, I would have probably changed up the wording a little bit because I think Gabriel, I agree with everything you lot have just said. Mm-hmm. Top season, but I think Saliba and Ben White have been better. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to put him just below Player of the Year, but I don't think good season is good enough. If it was maybe great season, but then people will argue great season, Player of the Year, maybe. Mm-hmm. So I think Player of the Year is fair, but cool. I think Saliba and Ben White have been better.
Fair enough.
Like
Ben White, happy to tweet this later. Happy to tweet this later. We can always look at it later and go, look, if we've got 7 players on the Player of the Year row, like we can always narrow it down. Kivior, I think this is a pretty clear played their part, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, some might say, oh, he's had a good season. Look, he wasn't always a regular. He came in, we had an injury crisis, and he played his part. Am I being too harsh?
I think played his part. The one that stands out to me is that Fulham game when he come in and he didn't have a clue. He was completely. Sorry, that sounds harsh, but listen,
when he was asked to invert away from home, he struggled in both
struggled,
games, actually.
Yeah, so and that's no criticism because, like you said, I think he played his part. I think he actually he was actually okay for Arsenal this season, but that one sticks out to me. There was he wasn't great, but from there after that he kicked on. He really did kick on, and I think he was needed as well in vital times and this throughout the season. So a big up Kivior, but played his part. I think is fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Right, we'll leaning more towards good season, but definitely played their part.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like yeah, maybe that word in good season we could have tweaked a touch. Timber, unmarkable, but
big season ahead.
I think there's a lot to come from him. Cedric,
come on, man.
I think we all agree, yeah. Alright, there's Cedric there.
Cedric Suarez.
Perfectly. Tomiyasu, this is interesting.
Played their part is where I'm leaning.
Yes.
If we're going to be
towards played their part.
If we're going to be honest and truthful, listen, he has been good, but he's played a part really. What's that down to? Is that down to more his injuries and just
it's injuries?
It's injuries, isn't it? Really,
if he stayed fit, or at least wasn't out as long as he was, maybe he was out, every now and again. But at one point, he took Ben White's right back spot. There was a point where he was playing that well in the Champions League game in the 6-0 against Lens, at home to Wolves. He was brilliant. He did a job at left back in the running for sure. Big performances away at Old Trafford and Tottenham, even when he wasn't fully at his best. Gets the equaliser on the final day that helps us win that game. Had his moments, Tommy Asu, there's no question.
Yeah.
But injury problems, so I can only really say he played his part.
That's fair.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
I think we're being fair with this.
Zinchenko.
Why'd you say it through gritted teeth, James?
Because I think he's been disappointing, man. And I'm a big Zinchenko fan in terms of, I do think, when I look back at what we were the first 5 months of 22-23, when he moved into midfield, I remember those January games against Man United and Newcastle. I honestly thought it was like a cheat code. We had someone who no one would track because he was coming in from left back, would get the ball off our defenders, would give us an extra man in midfield, and then would find anyone. Whatever pass, he would find him. You'd think it wasn't on and he would do it. If we get that Zinchenko back, I honestly think next season he still has a massive part to play, because I think that is such a valuable tool. But we've evolved from that. Defensively, there's not enough there when you look, especially the way we play with centre-backs across the back four. And he's not found form, and injuries on top of that. There's just like so much to talk about with him. So for me, he's been disappointing.
It's both. I'm not going to skip ahead too much, but
Can we say he played his part this season? He played games, but did he play
I think
his
it's-
part?
I think
it's disappointing off the fact that, again, I've spoken about this before, and shows the fact that, you know, the two City boys, Zinchenko and Jesus, when they came, they were transformative for Arsenal when they first came in that season. But now it's like he didn't hit those levels again, sadly for me. So I like you said, I'm a big fan of Zinchenko, and I think he still has a place in this side. I don't think he's going to be massive next season. I think he plays in a squad rotation role, and we look for a different way of playing.
I think
and
it's been
invert him
found
in.
out the whole.
Right.
I don't know, and not to get too boring about it, but I don't know if you guys noticed at the end of the Everton game with Timber and Zinchenko on the pitch, it was a double invert, like both of them tucked in. And I wonder if that's how Arteta sees it, as a more secure way. Rather than having a left back come all the way in field, you just have two tuck in a little bit. I don't know if that's what someone will try next season.
Well, he might. Obviously, he had Declan Rice. He had, as a lone six, there was Smith Rowe and Martin Odegaard in front of him, which I think is what we've spoke about. Mikel Arteta, I think it's what he's been wanting for ages, from when he first came to Arsenal. But we'll see. Yeah, for me, Zinchenko, it's hard to say, because I you know me, I like a lot of the players. I like Zinchenko.
I know you do.
It's disappointed. Turkish.
Check this guy out, man. Put him in disappointed, man.
Yeah, disappointed.
Jorginho.
Well,
Good season.
yeah. Got
Good
a contract off the back of it. You can't say he didn't have a good season. He's got an extension on his contract. Surprised me of how vital he was actually to this Arsenal side this season. And yeah, when with a big player missing like Thomas Partey, Jorginho really stepped up to the plate, done really well. Good
Cool.
season. I think he'll be happy with his season as well.
Also, big performances in big games. Started both games against Man City, which we won and drew. Started the game at home to Liverpool, where we were brilliant, beating 3-1. Away at Newcastle, I never felt we deserved to lose that game. Probably didn't deserve to win, but you know, games where I've thought, is this really made for him?
He was quality
He's
in that
always
game.
stepped up in them.
He was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Well, what are you thinking?
Bro, I agree with everything you're saying, but something just came across my mind.
Go on.
If he didn't fuck up, we win the league.
The Tottenham.
Two more points, we win it. But it's not black and white like that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But
Why'd you have to say that? Oh, that is.
because it was so close, I'm just.
You're still a feet. I hear you. I thought he was going to say Italian tax.
No, but he
Oh,
deserves a good
yeah.
season. No.
I was sat there like, go on.
Go on, say it.
Nah.
All right, El Neni.
Oh, come on, man. Remarkable.
Remarkable.
Poor guy. We love you. Declan Rice.
Player of the year.
Yeah, easy, man. Easy candidate.
He's been unbelievable. I was just chatting to Robbie, he made such a good point, which I think he's made on the Player of the Season video, which is like, Partey got injured, we sold Xhaka, and he had to be both.
Two roles.
Like,
Me and you disagree on this, but for me, he's clean a 6.
I've changed my mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Big up to Cass, who's in the background. We were again. I've had a lot of conversations today. We were talking about that in the office, and throughout the season, I've thought, can you get more of a tempo dictating midfielder in there? Not
Yeah.
that Rice can't do it, but someone who does it really naturally. Let him be box to box pressed. As we've ended the season, and I've seen more of Partey in there with him. Don't get me wrong, I still think with everyone available, that's our best midfield three. But this summer, I want to address the midfield so we get Rice doing what he does best, which is winning that ball.
Because imagine he's so good at it, having to double up on his job. Imagine that his sole job is just to do that. Because he's been good in the final third this season as well, good enough. When you look at, he's also outdone Xhaka's best season, which was last season in terms of productivity.
Has he?
I think he has, if I'm not
He's
mistaken.
definitely not far off it.
He's not. He's close enough as it is, but he's been 6 and 8 at times throughout this season. So I think if you just give him that 6th run, like you said, I mean, I've been an advocate of De Jong, but that profile, if you could have that profile, Declan Rice and Odegaard, I think it's perfect, because as much as Xhaka did it in his last season, he played very well in the 8, and Declan Rice has done it this season. Really and truly, Declan is a 6, and if we can get the 8 to complement, or I still look at Odegaard as someone who
Kind of
just seems perfect for an 8, but it just doesn't seem like that's ever going to be on the cards. Even though that Havertz goal against Chelsea, he was in that position, and you could see what he can do from there. And I think there's more quality 10 options than there is 8 this summer.
Yeah.
You know, so but I don't think that's on the card. So yeah, Declan Rice, player of the year for sure.
Yeah, and you're happy with that.
I don't need to say too much. I didn't, in the whole player that he was my number 1, and I literally spoke about it all. Check it out.
Thomas Partey.
Disappointing. Definitely
It's
disappointing.
unmarkable, disappointing, one of the two, but
Disappointed because he's injured, isn't it?
all the time.
The reason he doesn't make unmarkable for me is he did start the first 3 games. He was available from February. Like, he came on against Sheffield United, which I think was end of Feb, maybe beginning of March. Pretty sure it was end of Feb. So, like, he was available, and maybe they managed him up to a point. And to be fair, he started the crucial games of the run, and started away at Tottenham, started away at Man United. And while I thought he did well at Tottenham, I don't think he's been great in the running.
No, he hasn't.
And then you couple that with availability, it's been a disappointing season.
Takes a bit of time as well. When he come back in, he looked very rusty, but which is understandable. But again, the heights of what Thomas Partey can reach, we didn't really get to see that a lot this season. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing because it's just, another season. We hope that it's because people might say, oh, you put Timber in our market, but Timbers was a freak injury, first time we've seen him essentially.
He played an hour total.
Yeah, whereas Partey, it was a season we're going into thinking, hopefully he stays fit. So if he hasn't stayed fit, I'm obviously disappointed with that. Let alone the last 2 games of the season, where at the end I said, you know what, if you can see out these last 5 games and play as good as you did against Tottenham, then cool. Maybe we do keep you a year and hope again. And maybe it's Jorginho but then Jorginho gets his contract. The last 2 games of the season for Partey, I think he was terrible. Those last 2 games, I think Onana was running rings around him.
Onana was good in
that game. So I just think his best days are definitely behind him. He's got 1 year left on his contract. It hasn't been a great season.
It's harsh. It's not been a great career at Arsenal. If I'm being real, it's been disappointing for me from Thomas Partey.
Similar to Jesus and Zinchenko, level raiser, but at the end it's ended disappointing.
It's disappointing because it's injuries, isn't it?
Yeah. Martin Odegaard,
player of the year candidate, man.
He's got to be
100%.
I think his first half of the season was maybe not quite as good as a lot of people were saying it was at the time. Not that it was bad, but maybe I'd give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. But then his second half, his 2024, I think you can make an argument for him having been the best player in the Premier League. I think his 2024 was unbelievable. You've got to look at the whole campaign and the big moments and the big goals.
And I use the same reasons I used for Ben White. In that first half of the season, the changes had an effect on fullback, but had an effect on the front 4 as well. So that's why I feel like the first half, yes, he wasn't great, but when you're not as fluid as he was the season before, and a player like Odegaard,
he was shooting a lot at the beginning of the season, wasn't he? Do you remember?
Yeah. So it was a bit different. So it was just about him adjusting. Still, first half of the season, he didn't put in any clangers or...
No, it wasn't. But people say he hid a lot. There wasn't no shoulder guard.
When games are tight and compact and you're controlling it and there's a lot of bodies in the middle, you're going to get games like that.
Yeah.
But as soon as we unlock that little edge in January, he kicked on from where he left the season before.
His actual quality on the ball is for me a joy to watch. Just how he keeps it, gets out of tight spaces. Some of those through balls he played this season. I'm so glad he's at our club.
What about Smith Rowe?
Disappointing.
I have to agree.
Partey, similar reasons. You expect, you hope, and it hasn't happened.
I don't know what the club do with him this season, man.
It's done. We'll do another video on that anyway, but it's done.
Yeah.
Fabio Vieira.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Slipped my mind. Fabio Vieira. Where's he been?
He got injured, then he got a red card, and then that was it.
Yeah, he come back, then got red carded. Yeah. He has just been.
Do you know what I'd say for Smith Rowe and Vieira? In the very limited
they have quality, man.
opportunities they've had, I don't think they've looked like bad players. I'm not like, oh, these guys just aren't up to it. I just think, how do we get them up to it? You know, they're not going to start over the players that are there. They're not quite the profile we actually need. We need something different to what they offer. So it's not like there's an obvious gap for them to come in. We don't really know whether Smith Rowe is a right 8, left 8, a left-sided player, a 10. Vieira, we don't know if he's a right-sided player. Does he complement Odegaard or Rice? Does he play in Odegaard's position? I don't really know. I think of the two, I think Vieira will be given one more year because I think he's got that final third quality. I think Smith Rowe has different qualities, but I don't know if Arteta will want them as much. I don't know. I just don't think. I think either's been disappointing. When there was Xhaka left, and it was for someone to take that position.
No one did.
I ended up asking Rice to move and Jorginho to come in. You know. That's disappointing for both. We've had injury problems for sure, but yeah.
Very disappointed with Vieira as a whole.
Yeah.
As a whole, but yeah, he has shown glimpses, and if anyone's going to be given another chance, I guess it's going to be him.
Yeah. Bacary Sagna. I think he's in the Player of the Year conversation, but he's not my Player of the Year. But I think 34 goals and assists, like that output. And this isn't even one of those where we can go... I think in previous years he's had good output across all comps, and we've gone Europa League, we had a Carabao Cup run. As a Champions League footballer, playing an insane amount of minutes, doing a fullback's job out of possession, and, you know, your most prolific output player when we're attacking, for me he's up there in that top bracket. And maybe we shift a couple later, but
100 numbers and output, he's definitely Player of the Year candidate. But I put him like Gabriel, where I feel like there's a tier just below Player of the Year and a tier above good season, where you can say great season but not quite Rice, Odegaard, Saliba, White. That's how I see it. I'm not putting it down because it's been a great season. Numbers don't lie. But I mean, in terms of all-round 90-minute performances week in, week out, Saliba, White, Rice and Odegaard for me are clear. So yeah, I'd put in Player of the Year like I put Gabriel in there, but I do think those two are the ones I look at and say they were just below Saliba, White, Rice, Odegaard for me.
This one hurts me. It's hard for me because, again, what you just said there, I think the performances, I mean, I went to every game and watched Saka, and I just feel the numbers blow my argument kind of out the water because his numbers are incredible, from rightly so. Big up Bacary Sagna for them, but performance-wise, I just think there is another level. I think the fact that when you see Phil Foden kicked on and hit, that's what I want for Saka in this team, to be that, like right at the end of the season, Phil Foden solidified he's the Player of the Year, Player of the Year, and I wanted that for Saka. That's why, I don't know, his performances at times weren't the best. I remember with a lot of fans, I remember interviewing a lot of fans, a lot of them questioning, you know, we need Saka in these big moments, but his numbers don't lie. So people will say, what are you talking about? He's got crazy numbers, but from what I've seen, I just feel I want a little bit more from him. It's hard to say that because, like I said, he's top goal scorer for Arsenal as well this season. But yeah, Player of the Year makes sense to go in that category, but I just hope we get that. I want him to really take hold of being that star player for Arsenal. Like you mentioned, Saliba, about the consistency, no one questioned. He played every game as well. No one questioned how good he was throughout the season. I think there was times we questioned Saka. But yeah.
All right, Gabriel Jesus.
Disappointing, easy.
Absolutely a disappointing season. I'm one of the most disappointed. I really backed him. We'll talk about another video. I just think he ticks so many boxes. But if you're wearing the number 9 shirt, unfortunately, you're expected to put that ball in the back of the net. And I think people have always been really on him about his output. I think in previous seasons, he's been one of those that he still gets quite a few goals, quite a lot of goals, but he just misses a lot of chances. And this season, he was like, it was such a barren season. Like, is that the word, barren? Like,
barren, yeah.
Like
empty,
just did so little on that front.
Yeah,
stepped up in the Champions League. I'll give him that.
But disappointing. The moments make it more disappointing.
It's also like partly based on how much we rate the player. Like, I expect Jesus, for his talent, to be a big player for us, even if it's on the right, even if it's on the left, even if it's a squad player. Trossard is not going to be put in disappointing, but he wasn't a regular starter all the time. I just felt we didn't get enough, but all these reports about him leaving, or that we would be willing to listen to offers, to put it accurately, I would give him one more, unless big money comes in, but I would. I just think he's I don't know. I think
everything you say is right. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because like all these positions are always up for grabs, and people aren't like taking hold of them. We spoke about the left 8 role. no one really took hold of that position. That number 9 role, every season, everyone's asking for a new striker. When Jesus was it, we still need a striker, and it's like that was your chance to get hold of that. That's what he wanted. I remember his words when he came. He's like, he wants to be the starting number 9. Havertz is now people are now saying Havertz is that guy. Like, he's the number 9. Like, it's just like you want someone to take hold of that. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. That's basically what I wanted. So and he hasn't done that. So it's been disappointing for Jesus because he's actually a very talented footballer. It's just
not worth the money at the moment though, because I bring up wages with Havertz, I have to bring up wages with Jesus, and I like Jesus. That's why I've got no agenda against one player. Jesus and Partey are both in a disappointing list, and they're both on 200k or more. You can't have your 200k plus players in disappointing. So listen, I went from wanting a rotation option to Jesus, someone different to him, to now wanting someone different to Havertz. So I think Jesus' role is now either third choice striker or third choice right winger or option off the bench more than it is anything moving forward. And then you have to ask yourself, for that, is 200 plus K worth it? No, because 200 plus K should be a starting player week in, week out. So I can't lie. It's another video. So I'm sure we'll do another
Subscribe
video.
Subscribe to AFTV, people.
Yeah.
More to come.
But disappointing, man, for sure. One of the most disappointing.
Before we carry on, does this not sum up Arsenal fans? Our players are either amazing or terrible. Like,
it's a mad
split right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
It's like,
wow.
Yeah, how do they do? You either love them or look, it's just.
I think it'll balance out though.
Yeah, I've looked ahead and I think it will balance out. So let's go to Martinelli.
Well, that's just unbalanced there a bit, but yeah, disappointing for sure.
It's a bit of disappointing season for him.
But actually, I call Martinelli's been the most disappointing.
And you know what? Of course, there's an argument for he played his part. He did, because he started a lot of games and he was part of a team and he worked really hard and he did all that. But if we're talking about, I'm also measuring these people to what I've seen from them.
Right, that's the key.
And Martinelli with 15 Premier League goals, not one of them a penalty the season before. And I think there are reasons why he struggled. The left 8 wasn't sorted. Zinni not in his best form. But I just think it's been a really disappointing season. Whether it's his fault or not, I think he will feel really disappointed about the season he's had. I might be wrong.
I love him, man. Like, you don't know. Last season, I backed him. This season, I said he'll be our top scorer.
He was our player of the season last year. We both gave it to Martinelli.
Yeah, so that's, I hold him to high regard, hence why I'm saying disappointing.
Yeah.
And even if I didn't, then, he's got so much quality. I just think you are right. There's circumstances around the tactics set up and the changes that have probably worked against him. But I also think, he needs to have a big season next season, because I know it's in him, but he's no longer, and this works for Saka too, you're no longer that young winger anymore. That it's we're at the top end now.
Yeah, we need
to deliver. There's age mates like Rodrigo and so on that, they're very consistent with it. This season was very poor, so I expect a very good season next season.
Yeah, okay. It went from 20 goal contributions last season to 10 this season in the league. So it's sad, but big season this season, hopefully for him.
Eddie Nketiah. I can't say unmarkable because he's played football, but his 2024 is so different to how he started the season. I mean, Arteta was starting him. I think he started the City game. I think he started the Tottenham game at home.
I don't know where to place him.
But for me, so I don't mean to be harsh. I can't say he played his part. Like, he was playing regularly when Arsenal had 12 wins in 20 in the league and actually were 5 points off top. And then he comes out and Havertz gets more football. Other players get fit.
Disappointing, yeah.
Trossard finds his best form and Eddie's not seen. So I think for him it's a disappointing season. I can't say he didn't try. I can't say he didn't.
Very different reasoning for me. Martinelli disappointed because I hold him to high regard. Eddie, I'm disappointed because I don't expect nothing, and you delivered essentially nothing. You didn't. You've been given the 14 shirt. You've been given backing by the manager. You've been given chances. So that's been disappointing for me. As
What
much
did
as I
he-
didn't expect anything, I'm still disappointed.
What did he end on goal tally? Was it 5 in the end? I know everyone was saying he was our top goal scorer at the time when he scored a
was
hat trick
5
against
in the
Sheffield.
league,
Because
yeah.
I'm sure that's in the league.
Not
Everyone-
everyone. Laurie was saying. I've never heard anyone else say he's our top scorer apart from Laurie.
Yeah, okay. It was funny because Laurie said it so much. It was Laurie.
So much.
Yeah.
He gave up in like February when he realised it's embarrassing. I've been saying 5 for like 5 months, bruv.
It felt like he was on fire for so long because that was always people's rebuttal about it. You know, like, but he's our top goal scorer. It was and then he was joint with Saka, and then yeah.
Well, Eddie, okay, we'll put him there. So,
Was it to balance it out? What's happened? Who we got up next?
Leandro Trossard.
Okay. Oh.
For what he like again, you see, again, I'm gonna give reasoning. For me, this list, Gabriel and Saka are just below the other 4, and I'd put Trossard next to Gabriel and Saka. Now people are gonna be like, Gabriel was, but for what they are and what we'd expect of them, if we're talking about a 12th man, if we're talking about someone that's essentially going into season as depth, someone that might need to be called upon for injuries. He's our 3rd top scorer this season. He's scored vital
some
goals.
big goals, bro.
Don't get it twisted. His all-round performances haven't been great in terms of 90 week in, week out when he plays, like Saka. But I think his output's been, for a 12th man, like he's if we won the league this season, his output, his numbers, his moments puts him with a Will Todd, for example. You know, so I think he's
For me, it's good season.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, if we look at 12 mans across, that's fair.
Wait, I was gonna say when you say you get that,
If
he's
we
not
look at-
lower than that though. I think
No,
it's
it's
good
definitely
to see.
not. For me, he's probably more arguable in one of the Player of the Year conversations because that's the only tier. For me, there's a tier in between where Trossard lands because it's been better than it. Because has he been the best 12th man in the league? There's an argument there. If the answer is yes, then for a 12th man, we can't compare a 12th man to Saliba or to Rice, who are playing week in, week out, who you expect everything from. One's the next young best centre back. One's this guy. You expect him to come off the bench. So I forgot how you put it, but if you marry up the expectation to what they've delivered, I think Trossard has delivered as much as
I think above
some of
expectation.
those, as much as Gabriel and Saka for what we expected.
Gabriel, I can't believe it. I think Gabriel's been consistent.
He has,
since
but
he
I'm
came
not
back.
this. I'm not.
I know you're
I'm
not,
not.
but-
That's not the way to look at it because I'm just saying they've been great, but I think Trossard for what he is, what we expect, he's been as good. No.
Yeah, no, he has. I think that middle between player and good season would be, like you said, a Saka, and I actually put Ben White in
We
there.
all expected
But I
Martinelli
think-
to kick on this season, and he
He
didn't.
didn't. Yeah, that's why he's
But we
disappointing.
didn't really feel it as much because of Trossard.
Yeah, agreed. So good season, but people will argue player of the year. There will be people in the comments saying
I wouldn't argue Player of the Year, but I think he's above good season. But I think because of the tiers, he goes more into good season then.
I think good season.
I think good season also just sounds underwhelming, but it's meant as it. He's had a good season.
Because I think
good.
Trossard definitely above Raya and Jorginho. Do you get what I mean about a middle tier where?
But Raya got the Golden Glove and Jorginho was pivotal. I heard what you're saying. He got a new contract off the back of his season. Trossard is
think-
in between, but
Trossard was so clutch in those final 2 months, but he also wasn't starting games till about February, March.
and it
if
did
I'm not
actually.
wrong.
He started quite slow when it was just starting his 90s. I remember I questioned it like he's not a starter. A lot of fans did as well from the performances, but then he became. I think towards the back end of the season is when he really kicked on. So it's
Well,
it's
so
good.
what was
I
yours?
think good season's
Yeah,
fair.
I think good season. Turkish, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But
I
it's
know
not.
what
It's
you
not a
mean.
negative. I think that's.
We'll go
fair.
back to that top. We'll go back to that top list in a sec, because maybe when we bring some players down, it'll look all right amongst who they're with, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Reece Nelson,
Disappointing.
Unmarkable.
is he borderline unmarkable?
Yeah,
Like,
unmarkable.
that he
came
just
on.
did not. But maybe that's part of why it's disappointing, because
Think-
he
yeah.
stayed. He
I don't
signed a
think that's
contract.
his
He
fault.
stayed.
I know, but I don't think it's his fault. He didn't really get many minutes, and when he did get minutes, it's very little minutes. So I think it's harsh to then say, "Bro, you've been disappointing," because when you didn't even get a chance to really enter the field unless it's the last 2-3 minutes. I think it's for him. I think it's unmarkable. For me,
I think I agree. He played so little.
So
I
little
might be
minutes.
wrong, but
No,
he
he
wasn't
did.
even making matchday squads.
Bro,
and then I can't even say that's not good enough, because I didn't really have much expectation he would amongst the players that were there. Some of the players that, for example, I wouldn't put as like Ramsdale, I wouldn't put as unmarkable because I expected he would play this season. He signed a contract. I thought he was going to be his first team, and then he wasn't. I'm looking at others who, like, I don't know, Eddie Nketiah did play. Every single one I expected to play more of a part, but I didn't expect Nelson.
Nothing stands out with
Reece
Nelson.
didn't start Villa, did he? The loss?
No. At home.
Which one, home or away?
The recent one. I swear he started a game where...
That's a good point.
Didn't Saka
I can
pick up
check.
something after Bayern? Am I just making this up? Maybe I am.
Stay here. Stay with us.
Maybe I am.
He did start the FA Cup game. See how many games he started?
Carabao Cup as well. Brentford,
Yeah.
when we
See how
won.
many games he
was good
started
in that
this
game,
season?
actually.
I think transfer market will tell you. But have a little
Okay.
look. In the meantime, we'll talk about Kai Havertz before we give Nelson one. Kai Havertz, for me, good season.
Reece Nelson didn't start the 2-0 loss at home.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Okay. He didn't, yeah. But he started a game towards it, and then he wasn't in the squad. And I remember, like, how are you going to start
Luton.
a game and then you?
Luton at home.
Okay, and he wasn't great in that game.
No.
That was 2-0. It looked like one of our bumpy
just
ones
sort of-
along the way. It was
yeah,
okay.
It was just to get it done.
Okay.
result.
Yeah, I mean, unmarkable's fair. I think disappointing would be equally
Yeah.
fair if I give the reasoning for Eddie that, you know, you've been given faith and you didn't deliver.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Reece, whether it's on the pitch, he didn't deliver, or behind the scenes,
Yeah, that's a good point.
it must be something. So I'm disappointed.
And I was making that excuse to someone, I can't remember who, that ultimately if you're fit and available and you weren't playing, then that is also saying something. But I think he had so little opportunity. We were at the Cup so early. He didn't really rotate much in the Champions League, Arteta. I'm going to put him as unmarkable. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I think it's
anywhere near
unmarkable.
enough for me to be like, yeah, you've had a disappointing campaign. Because even when he started the FA Cup game, I thought he did okay, to be honest. So I'll go for that. I'll go for unmarkable. Kai Havertz.
So I just said 15 appearances, but I don't know if it wouldn't tell me how many starts. But
Fair.
Yeah.
Kai Havertz, good season. For me, it's a good season.
Robbie put him in the Player of the Year candidates for the
For me,
video.
again, it's that tier between good, and I'd put Havertz, Gabriel, Saka, and Trossard.
You got to put
together.
Ben White in there as well, though. You know.
I don't. Ben White's been better in my opinion.
But in that first half of the season, there was questions. I think
What
the other
questions?
bar him.
The questions in the
Everyone
first
else was
half of the season
consistent.
is why isn't he overlapping? But we know why he wasn't, because that wasn't what Arteta wanted to do.
I think there was more. Okay, I think there was more questions. He wasn't to, like you said, what we've seen of him. He wasn't playing at his best. Whether that's, I don't think that's just solely because of overlapping. I'd put him. So yeah, if you're gonna put in that middle, well, between that tier, I suppose that's where Havertz goes. But if not, we got to pick between good season or Player of the Year.
Okay, if this, let's just put Havertz there for a sec, right? And those are all the players, I think. Yes, we put Kai Havertz there, and this is how we got it at the moment. Would it be more digestible? Like, forget.
Can I suggest something? Are you able to alter text there?
No.
Okay.
Right, what do you want? Great season.
I think great season and good season is better than good season and played their part is essentially the same thing to me. And if it was great season and good season, then I'd put Raya and Jorginho into good season, and I'd keep Trossard and Havertz in great season.
Let's do this then. Let's do this. Let's rearrange this.
Because we've looked at it as played their part. We're kind of like we've looked at it in the from a negative angle rather than a positive angle. So it's become more closer to disappointing than it has to good.
So, okay, let's do something, right? If I did this, right, and moved Raya to, he played his part, like had moments, but obviously Golden Glove. Jorginho wasn't often known as but played his part. And then we moved, who are you saying, Gabriel and Saka.
Well, I think Ben White goes in there as well. I think Ben White goes in there personally as well.
But basically,
That's fair. I give you. I don't. He's one of my favourite players.
I know that. But I just think Ben White. When it comes to,
for me, looking at it now, even makes more sense. And then if you put White into that second one,
I'd put White in the second one. The reason why I say that is because
you two are voting as well. So
I gauge a player this season as consistent through the season from game one. For me, Saliba, Rice, consistent. Even Odegaard, I don't think he was as bad as people made out in that first half of the season. So I think throughout a whole 38 game season, and you can count the cup competitions as well, those three for me are the real candidates for player of the season. Gabriel, I also think was very consistent when after being dropped, come back in. But if you've said put him in good season, I'm not going to argue it, as long as I think Ben White has to fall into that category as well. If you look at it like that, I think that's a lot more digestible.
We'll have pop up on screen now. Player of the Year, great season, good season, which is, they've played their part. They've contributed to what was a good season. Disappointing, didn't hit the heights that we expected, or ultimately weren't really good enough.
I think that looks
unmarkable. Right. We just can't give them a rating because we just simply didn't see enough.
Comment section, let us know. Have I just ruined it, or is it better?
Do you think people are gonna say you're being really, considering how good this season was? I know we didn't win the league, but how good we were.
Doesn't mean you have 11 player of the years though.
That's a good point.
I'm happy with that split. I'm also happy to have someone like Raya as good season where you acknowledge that he got the Golden Glove, but a lot of that was because of the structure and the system in front of him. But obviously he aided that too. But at the same time, he made some errors and he looked shaky for the first half. The goal at Tottenham we conceded. So I think I wouldn't have him in great season. Jorginho, I think. Can you have a great I was going to say Trossard maybe. Can you have a great season and not be like a starter? Ultimately, when Partey got fit, we didn't start him. So he had a good / very good season. Everyone, it's all a bit of fun. Don't all get upset in the comments with us. But we have adjusted the graphic now for you, and we have shown you the players as it is there. So we've kind of worked you through our thinking throughout all this. I'm quite happy with that. I think Gabriel is the only one. I'm so tempted to put him in as one of the players of the year. I think he was that good.
Is Gabriel stand out to me, and just Raya as a lone goalkeeper winning Golden Glove, sitting and played their part.
Double pivot goalkeeper, or what do you?
No, not alone. As in, he's a loney.
It's crazy what managers are doing these days, playing one goalkeeper. Unbelievable.
He's not fully signed.
Single pivot goalkeeper. I mean, it's incredible. Just put two in goal.
That was very quick of you, though.
Two in goal.
No, I mean, as a loan, he's on a loan deal and then winning Golden Glove. I think that's mental. But
I honestly thought you said a lone goalkeeper, like he's just on his own. Anyway, all right. There we go. We've fumbled our way through that, people.
That does look right.
But I'm more happy with that at the end now for sure. But let us know in the comment section below what players you'd move around, how you'd change it. Is Saka's output deserving of a Player of the Year space? I think that'd be absolutely fair. If so, Gabriel has been unbelievable too. Ben White for the way he ended the season. Martin Odegaard, are you having him up there, or are you thinking that first half of the season wasn't quite as good? I don't know. It's whatever you want. It's all a bit of fun. The point is, the players have had a really, really good season. I think we can see I think we can see roughly where players will feel for the season they've had and what's sort of to come. Cecil, big thank you. Go on.
Before you go because obviously you weren't on the Player of the Season video, out of those, who's the Player of the Season for you, just quickly? Turkish and James?
Mine's Rice.
James? I mean Turkish?
It's the big, and can I just quantify it? It's the big game performances that just tip it over for me, how massive he was in huge games for us.
That's what I struggle with, because I was going to say Rice, but Saliba away at Etihad, away at Old Trafford, and away at Anfield is the three of the four biggest games we have.
We couldn't decide it. Robbie couldn't decide it. He was
can share it, man. Whatever, man. We didn't win the league.
Pick one.
Robbie couldn't. He said, "I literally sit." First time I heard Robbie say, "I'm sitting on the fence," and he said, "I'm not. I can't decide."
He wouldn't choose.
Yeah, he wouldn't choose.
Yeah,
so you're allowed not to choose.
I'll give it to Declan Rice.
Cool. And yours was
Declan Rice.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, you're a good team if you've got 5 candidates. Like, there are people who are honestly, like, I'm reading on X every day, like, people are going, nah, Saka, no, it's Saliba, no, it's Gabriel, it's Rice, it's Ben White. Some people are saying that running from Havertz. Like, people are just, and Trossard, how clutch he was. Signs of a good team. Yeah. So we'll see what we do this summer to build on it. Big thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this video. The like button if you did. Of course, you'll all be flooding in the comment section below. Be nice. But no, we'll be there to debate it with you guys as well. So let us know what you think of these players. And how would you have changed the categories? Because, I mean, ultimately we'll probably do this every year. So let us know your thoughts on all that as well. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, if you want to be kept up to date with everything that's coming out on AFTV. Like the video if you like the video. And we'll see you very soon.